Hey guys, this is Metallagamer here. Today I'm bringing you my review of Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark. It came out for Xbox 360, PS3, Xbox One, and PS4. So, Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark was developed by Edge of Reality. Their primary focus is helping out with licensed games. They've been working on a few of their own lately, but they've worked on games like Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3 for the Nintendo 64. Mass Effect port for the PS3. They did a couple of licensed products like Shark Tale, Over the Hedge, The Incredible Hulk, and they also had a hand in Sims 3. Jumping straight into the review, Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark is a third-person action shooter based on the Transformers franchise. Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark jumps between the Cybertron world that we've gotten to know from War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, and the Earth Transformers, which we've gotten to know from the movies that we watch in theaters. So, it switches off between the two worlds that we recognize if you are a Transformers fan. Graphically, the game looks as the series has so far. It actually takes the War for Cybertron look and continues it in the way that it's supposed to, which is somewhat cartoony, but still gives you a feel for the Transformers characters. The character models and voice acting all feel true to the series, so I'm glad they've kept these things intact. Controls work great. The AI isn't terrible, and it's always awesome, as it has been in the previous games, to be able to transform on the fly. Just with one push of a button, you are transformed into whatever your alternate form is. We'll jump into combat here. As I said, it's a third-person shooter. You can go to these kiosks throughout the world that allow you to select your weaponry based on what you found in the world and unlock. You have a heavy weapon and a lighter weapon. The lighter weapon consists of things like machine guns and shotguns and sniper rifles, as to where the heavy weapon is like rocket launchers and a lot of different specialized weapons that are unique to the Transformers franchise. The game is pretty action-packed throughout and tries its best to not be repetitive by giving you some environmental puzzles that are a nice change of pace. The game is a great play for older and younger audiences because it is Transformers, but they try to put a certain amount of story element and a certain amount of combat that makes it appeal to a wider audience than just people under the age of 14. You can use the level up system and unlock system to unlock extra characters, unlock more weapons, and unlock upgrades. As you level up and you complete side objectives, such as killing 100 enemies with a certain weapon, things like that. You use these objectives to be able to unlock more characters and more weapons, so in that way you can use them throughout the game. One of the newer additions to the series are hacks and items. You are able to equip up to 3 items at any given time that are one-time use items. They can do things like upgrade your multiplier to times 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, so you get more experience when you kill enemies. You can use them to create a shield that can protect you, or you can use them to give you health regeneration for a limited time. And then there's the hacks, which you can use to make the game more difficult, but it also gives you more experience. Example, one of the hacks is it allows enemies to drop more health items, but drop less ammunition, and it gives you more experience every kill that you get. There's a pretty good setup for the gameplay here, but now I unfortunately do have to jump into the bad aspects because this game is not perfect by any means of the word. So I'm going to say there's a lot of cool moments, but I found myself looking for great ones, and I didn't find too many. There is a lack of versus multiplayer in this game. If you have played the previous games, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, there is a multiplayer versus mode. It does not exist here. There is no multiplayer mode. There is just the escalation mode. It's kind of one of those things, if you've played the previous games, you'll honestly feel a lot like you've played this game before. And that can be a good or a bad thing, depending on how fond you are of Transformers. And the thing that bugs me the most is there are lots of boss battles, but they all feel underwhelming. There was a fight with Ironhide, and I pretty much spent time in the back sniping him to where the enemies that were alongside him came with him to try to fight me, and I would take them out as well before they got near me. And as I fought Ironhide, he got farther and farther back, and it just felt, like I said, underwhelming. I didn't feel like I got an enjoyable boss fight out of it. It's basically an enemy with a much larger health bar. I also didn't care for the sense of scale. You were obviously playing as Transformers, so you would expect to see a certain amount of Transformer-like action. but it just feels like a scaled down game. There's a couple of levels where it does feel okay. Like, there's chapters where you're walking through the city, and you can see trucks that are much smaller than you, obviously, and buildings that don't seem as large as they should, which, like I said, they got the scale down with those. But on the Cybertron levels, you're fighting lots of large insects that don't make you feel like you're fighting these huge robotic enemies. Escalation mode is basically a horde mode. You and 3 other players get into it, and you survive through waves of enemies, set up defenses, and change your weapons, do that whole thing, so that way you can fight enemies accordingly. Now, one of the problems I do have is as you are finding random games, people can still access their hacks. So, example, I jumped into one game, they had on the hacks for your shield cannot regenerate. So, we had a very, very hard time because we could not regenerate, and we were losing on like the first or second wave because the enemies were taking us out because we could not heal. Okay, the verdict for Transformers Rise of the Darkspark: it's a fun game, but once you get into the really deep mechanics of the game, that's where its problems in lie. Like I said, boss battles being underwhelming, and a lack of cool moments kind of made me bored at some points, but the fact is, it stayed true to the Transformers universe, which made me play more. The story's pretty generic, but it feels like a Transformers story, so it all sticks together and it all works well. The game, like I said, wasn't absolutely amazing, and it had a lot it could have done differently, but that's all I have for you guys today. So I'm giving Transformers Rise of the Darkspark a B-. It still has a lot it can work on, but it still has an appeal to an audience of adults as well as children and people who like Transformers or action games. Well, anyways, guys, that's my review for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm announcing on all of my videos for a little while at least. I now am running a Twitch where I'm streaming games. I will be streaming Transformers for a little while. I want you guys to check it out. I'll leave a link for that below. I also have a Facebook and a Twitter. We'll leave those links here. If you like my videos, please hit the subscribe button, check out more of my stuff, and let me know that you support me. Because the more support I get, the more I am going to be inclined to do this consecutively. So, that's all I have for you guys today. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and stay metal, guys. We'll see you next time.